Hey there, welcome to class today. So this class will be passively stretching and we'll be lying down the entire time. So you can set yourself up on the floor. You can also set yourself up in your bed if that's a little bit more comfortable for you. For today's class, you'll want to have either a yoga strap or a substitute. And so let's go ahead and get started. We'll be lying on whatever surface you're on. And just taking a moment to get comfortable. So it could be lying down with your feet releasing out towards the sides. For some people, it may be more supportive to lie down with your feet planted, making any little adjustments. Whatever feels right for you. Your hands can be wherever you like, so they can be on your belly, maybe one hand on the belly or the chest, or on your mat. Maybe allowing the eyes to close if that's comfortable for you. And we'll just spend some time breathing here into the space. And there's no need to control your breath or breathe in any way that you think you should, but just whatever feels right in the moment. Maybe noticing the belly rise and fall, if the breath goes down that far. Maybe the breath just stays in the chest or the throat. Just inhaling and exhaling. Noticing your body against your yoga mat. If you're lying in bed, becoming present to this moment. And perhaps setting an intention for practice today, just bringing to mind something you'd like to cultivate, maybe a mantra you'd like to state. Bringing to mind what motivated you to show up to your practice today. And bringing this to the forefront of your mind. And so let's start by bringing the feet and knees close together. The feet are planted, crossing the right ankle over the left ankle. And your soles of your feet don't need to touch the floor all the way. They can begin to lift up a little bit. And then just allowing each knee to release out towards the sides. Now remember, we're passively stretching, so if this feels intense already, go ahead and decrease the stretch a little bit. You can bring the feet more towards the front of the mat or farther away from you. If you need extra support, you're always welcome to place a little cushion or rolled up towels underneath the legs for support. Just finding a posture that feels a little bit of a stretch, but not too intense. And then doing your best to dwell into the posture, to settle in. It can be challenging to sit here in silence. So if you notice that the mind is beginning to wander, realizing that's normal, it's okay. Trying to come back into either noticing your breath or noticing the body, even just listening to the music. And we're really aiming to tune into the body. Being able to sit with ourselves when it's a little uncomfortable, but also knowing when anything becomes painful. And if it's too much, you can always stop. You can always move the feet a little farther away from you or lift the knees up a little higher. And just finding that sweet spot of feeling a nice stretch without force, but also not going too deep. Tuning into the posture, seeing if you want to go deeper. Remembering that we're passively stretching, so try not to push down or to flap the knees, but just allowing everything to settle downward. So very gently, let's take our hands underneath the thighs, gently beginning to bring the knees back together, and you can move nice and slow, so there's no need to rush. Maybe letting the knees shuffle from side to side. And so we'll get that on the opposite side. So opposite side means that we'll cross the opposite ankle, on top. So left ankle will be in front of the right, gently beginning to lower the legs downward. Just noticing how this little change, it seems so small, how that might feel different in the body, how there's a little shift. And then like before, settling in once you found your sweet spot, so that spot where you feel a little bit of a stretch, but it's not too much. Knowing you can always adjust, but just doing so mindfully. Hands can go wherever you like. This could be a nice place to repeat your intention for your practice. Letting everything soften, letting everything release. Being aware of your limits today, but also the possibilities. Might begin to notice the opening in the hips. And even though it seems like we're still, maybe just noticing if there's any movement in the body. That softening downwards. Can you feel that slow and tiny movement as we rest here? Or the movement of the breath circulating through the body. Again, the mind might be wandering, just bringing it back to this moment. The sensation of your breath, the body, the music, something that's happening right now. Ready. Again, just bringing the arms along the sides of the legs for a little extra support. Begin to let the feet come back towards the mat. And then again, just a little sway in the knees left to right. And then let's go ahead and plant the feet again. So on this next posture, you have two different options. We'll bring the right knee in towards the chest, and you can interlace your hands around the shin. Trying to bring the knee towards the chest, and your left leg can either keep the foot planted, or you can extend the leg downward. But either way, that leg is kind of relaxed. So just trying to bring the right knee towards the chest, or even a little outside of the body if you need some space. And again, not trying to push our body into any sort of way. So once you get to the spot that feels an itty bitty stretch, just allowing the knee and the leg to relax. The ankle is relaxed. You're gazing towards the sky. It could be nice to have the eyes closed. Feeling into the posture or your breath. Seeing if you can be at home with yourself in this posture. Maybe easy today or challenging. Wherever you're at, just doing your best to rest here. If it's gotten too easy, maybe you can bring the knee up a little higher. If it's gotten to be too much, you can always bring the knee away from the body. Letting the head release downward, the shoulders are releasing downward. Bringing your intention or your mantra to the forefront of your mind. Gently releasing the hand, releasing the leg downward. So let's get that on the opposite side. We'll bring the left knee in towards chest, and whatever the resting leg was doing on the opposite side, you'll do so on this side. So if you had the foot planted, you'll keep the foot planted. If you had it extended, keep it extended. Bringing the left knee as close as you can towards your chest, whatever that looks like. And if you need a little bit more space, just taking the knee a little bit out towards the left-hand side. So we're not pressing or putting too much pressure on any area of the body that's uncomfortable. And again, just seeing if you can rest, finding a home in this posture. It can be really difficult to just sit here, not moving a lot with our thoughts, or we might even have emotions coming up. So again, finding that anchor, finding something that's here right now to keep bringing you back. Could be the sound of my voice, could be the music. But often we come back to the breath a lot. It's something that's always with us, something you can always pay attention to, finding it's comfortable for you. And now gently releasing the left leg down. So for our next posture, you may or may not want your strap. I'll demonstrate with both. We'll come into a half happy baby. So let's go ahead and bring the right knee in towards the chest or as high as you can. And you're going to take the right hand, either bring it to the outside of the right foot, and then try to bring the sole of the right foot towards the sky while you're keeping this right knee bent. And the right knee is just a little bit to the outside of the belly or the chest now. So that's one option. You can also make a peace sign with the right hand, reaching for the inside of the big toe, wrapping the fingers around, and again, trying to bring the right knee down towards the floor. Now, if you're trying to reach and it's just not happening, do not worry about that at all. That's where your yoga strap or your substitute comes in. You'll take the strap or whatever you're using, loop it around the foot, still keeping that knee bent towards the outside of the body, sole of the foot towards the sky, and then just gently holding onto the strap. And then you can release the arm downward. So you're not trying to actively pull down, but just getting your foot to the part where you feel the stretch, and then allowing the rest of the body to just relax. Even the left foot is relaxed. Don't forget about that one. And holding here. Easing into the posture. If you notice that the face is a little tense, you can gently part the lips and the teeth, taking a few exhales out through the mouth. Just going to that part of the posture where you feel the stretch in the hip area. You might even feel it in the back of the legs. So we are stretching the lower part of the body, the hips and the backs of the legs. If we stretch this area of the body, oftentimes it's going to help with your lower back. the muscles will tighten up on the back side of our body, and then it forces our lower back to compensate. So if we can keep these areas of the body stretched out, a lot of times it'll help with your lower back as well. Checking in with your posture, seeing if you can go a little bit deeper, maybe bringing the knee a little closer towards the floor. If it's gotten to be too much, you can lift the foot up a little bit higher, or even lower the knee a little bit away from the chest. And so let's gently release the foot downward. If you're using a strap, you can take your foot out of the strap. You can keep the foot planted for a moment, just letting the body settle back. And then when you're ready, let's get that on the opposite side. So we'll extend the right leg downward. And again, whatever modification you took with the leg, we'll do it on this side as well. So just as a reminder, we'll start to bring the left knee in towards the chest, and then just bring it a little bit out towards the side. Keeping the knee bent, bring the sole of the foot up towards the sky, almost as if you're trying to stack the ankle right above the knee. And you may not be there yet, that's fine, but just doing your best. And either hand to the outside of the foot, bringing the knee down towards the floor. Peace sign, wrapping it around the big toe. Or again, using the strap or your substitute around the sole of the foot, holding onto the strap gently, allowing the knee to come back down. It'll be interesting to notice what side is a little bit easier than the other. Allowing the body to soften downward. I know I forget about the right foot a lot. It's usually flexed, just letting that release down. Shoulders releasing down. Maybe repeating your intention for practice, or just getting a felt sense of the intention in the body as we hold here, softening into the posture. If the mind is racing, coming back to your anchor, something in the present moment to tune into. Maybe noticing how this feels in the body, if you want to go down a little bit more with the left knee, or maybe moving the left knee away from you or a foot a little bit higher. And then when you're ready, gently releasing the foot downward. You can take your foot out of the strap, just letting the left leg stay bent for a moment as the foot releases towards the mat. Now let's plant both feet, letting the toes rotate forward. And let's just bring the knees together as the feet go towards the side of the mat. So the right foot is on the right side of the mat, the left foot's on the left side of the mat, and your knees are tapping right in the center. Just resting here for a moment. sensing into the body. Let's go ahead and separate the knees. Coming into a reclined swan, or sometimes reclined pigeon. Bring the right ankle to the top of the left thigh. Let the outside of the right knee rotate forward, keeping your head and shoulders pressed into the mat. We'll bring the left knee in towards chest. Take the right hand between the legs, and you'll take the left hand interlacing the fingers underneath the thigh. Now, if you can't bring the knee towards you, again, you're going to use your strap or your substitute. This will give you a little bit more extension with that leg, so that way you can bring the knee towards you while still keeping the back of your head and shoulders on the mat. But as that left knee comes towards you, your right knee, the outside of the right knee, is getting away from you. So you should feel a nice little stretch right here in the outside of the right glute. And once you settle in, try to let the left foot relax. Let the head and shoulders release downward. And again, going just so far so that way you notice a nice little stretch right here in the outside of the right glute, in the hip area. If you don't feel a stretch, you can go a little bit deeper. But if you notice any pain, you can always scale back or come out of the posture. This helps stretch the hips. Remembering that we're passively stretching. So try not to kind of bounce or do anything like that. Just finding your edge and then resting there, finding a home in that spot. Doing your best to keep your focus here into this moment, into the posture. The mind is racing, just accepting that the mind races sometimes, and it's okay when it does. Just keep coming back to this moment anytime you get a little distracted. We've been here for a little bit, so again, just checking in. Maybe you can bring the left knee a little bit more towards you. Maybe it needs to go away from you. If you need to make any adjustments, feeling free to make those adjustments. And then when you're ready, releasing the hands, letting the left foot come down. Right foot also comes down. It might feel a little bit different on the right and left side of the body, and that's okay. We'll balance it out. So let's bring the left ankle on top of the right thigh. Rotate the outside of the knee towards the front of your mat. If you were using a strap, you can use a strap. Otherwise, left hand will go in between the legs as the right knee comes towards you. Hands interlace underneath the thigh. Outside of the left knee is going forward. Right knee is coming towards the chest. And once you find that sweet spot, again, just letting everything relax. So the right ankle is relaxed. Letting the shoulders release downward, back of the head downward. Keeping everything on the mat except for the lifted legs. Seeing if you can settle in. Maybe even noticing how this side might feel the same or different than the other side. just far enough to feel the stretch outside of the left glute and the hip area. Noticing what might be pulling your mind away today. And that in itself is something to notice. Where is the mind at? And can we just allow ourselves to notice that we got pulled away and going back to this moment again and again. When you're ready, releasing the hands. The feet come down towards the mat. And again, let's just take the feet out towards the sides of the mat, their respective sides, letting the knees tap together in the center. Taking a few breaths here. This can also be an experiment in moving slowly and just slowing things down. When you're ready, let's bring the knees and feet together. You can bring both knees in towards the chest, giving yourself a little hug, maybe even thanking yourself for taking care of yourself today. Let's take the knees out wide into a T. We'll lower the knees and the feet down towards the right-hand side of the mat. And so before we settle in, you can play around here. So maybe noticing what it's like to bring the knees up a little bit higher or the knees a little bit lower and how that'll feel in your lower back. Try to get your left shoulder pressed into the mat, and if it doesn't reach all the way down, you can place a little cushion or blanket underneath. If you need support for your legs, you can always place a blanket or a little pillow underneath the legs. And before we settle in, let's do a little self-adjustment. Take the left hand, place it on top of the left hip, and then gently press down a little bit, trying to even off the hips. Your gaze can be towards the sky, or it can be in the opposite direction of the legs. Do what feels comfortable for you. Just noticing what it's like to rest here in this posture. If you're comfortable with being still, or if it's a little uncomfortable, either way's fine. Gently easing out of the posture, bringing the knees towards the chest, and giving yourself a hug. Maybe rocking the knees side to side. Let's get that on the opposite side. Taking a moment to find that posture, either lowering the knees or lifting them up, but try to keep it to where it was before. And before we settle down, we'll take the right hand, place it on top of the right hip, gently press it down so the knees and the ankles even out. And either gazing towards the sky or towards the opposite hand, but really wherever you're comfortable with the head. Settling downward. Noticing where your mind is, if it's drifting off or racing in thoughts. Maybe it's right here. It's coming back anytime you're drifting. And when you're ready, allowing the head and the knees to come back to center, and giving yourself a great big hug. Allowing the feet to release down. Rolling to either side for a moment. Maybe using your arm as a support. Noticing the contact of the body against the floor. Using your top hand as a support to press yourself up. And so let's end this practice taking 3 breaths together. One hand to the heart and one hand towards the belly. Taking a deep breath in and exhaling slowly. Inhaling. Exhale. Inhale and exhale. Hands into heart center. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace. And may you be at ease. Thanks for practicing with me today.